Okay, everybody, so we are officially recording. Welcome to our week 1 go-to training session. At this point, I just want to check. Give me a yes in your chat box if you can hear my voice. So testing, 1, 2. Perfect. Looks like we're good to go there. And for those of you that are joining over a laptop or even an iPad, you should be able to see my face as well. Can everybody see me? Go ahead and give me a yes again. Perfect. Okay. So this will serve as just a recap of some important elements for your week 1 of Psychology of Play. We're going to just review some of the content a little bit, and then I will take questions and we'll go through the answers for those, as well as review your week 1 assignment, any questions you have for that, and we'll talk through the plan for Sunday's class as well. All right, so before we get started with actual content, there are some of you, if not all of you, that are in here that I think maybe are new to go-to training. So we're going to talk through some of the functionality and how that works and what you can expect in order to utilize go-to training to its best capacity. So you see that you have a navigation panel. Some of you might have it on your right, some of you might have it on your left. Either way, you should be able to see your navigation panel. And in that navigation panel, you have a chat box all the way towards the bottom. That chat box allows you to type to myself, the other instructors that are in the room, as well as your classmates that have joined us today. So anytime you have a question, as of right now, the microphones are muted just for hearing purposes so that there isn't any background music or noise. And so you can type in that chat box anytime you have something to ask us or you want to answer something. And every so often I'll ask you a question and say, can you type whatever that is in the chat box as a response. So for now, we're going to test that functionality. You use your keyboard just like anything else. I'm going to ask you a question, and then you go ahead and type that answer just as a test, okay? So if you remember what I told you my favorite color was on day 1, go ahead and type that color in the chat box for me. Oh, you guys are good. All right. So that kind of gives you a feel for how the chat box works. Also, there is a drop down where you can see where you can text or chat to the entire audience, so everybody that's in our go-to training, or if you want to just ask myself, Miss Ann, or Mr. John a specific question just to us, you can actually pick organizers only, and that will send a message just to us, and everybody won't be able to see it. The only warning that I want to give to you guys on that is make sure that you realize what setting you have that to before you send the message, just in case for privacy or that kind of thing purposes. Brian, your test did work. We did get it. Good job. Yes, absolutely. And for some of you, depending on what version of go-to training you have, that message that you send to just somebody specific, whether it's the organizers or a classmate, it'll turn a different color. So you should be able to see the difference as well. Okay. So some other functions that go-to training has available to us is the microphone option. Now, right now, as you guys know, because I've told you, your microphones are all muted just for background noise purposes. But whenever you have a question, you're able to actually communicate back. So what that would look like is the microphone icon that is on your screen in your navigation panel. If you guys see that little recording microphone icon, go ahead and type thumbs up in our chat box. Perfect, good, everybody found that. Awesome. All right, and so then what that means is that you should also be able to see a icon that looks like a hand, and that hand is what allows you to virtually raise your hand whenever you have a question. So if you want to ask something out loud, or if you want to make a comment about something that we're discussing, go ahead and raise your hand. I'm happy to call on you, and then I'll make your microphone live. That way you can talk to everybody in the room instead of doing it via chat. So we're going to test that now. Once you find your hand icon, go ahead and click on that and give me a hand raise so that I can see that you have found it. Looks like many of you are getting there. Good. Waiting on a couple more to find your hand and raise your hand, virtually, of course. I mean, you could do it in person as well. I just won't be able to see it. Yep, so it is on the left of the navigation panel, and it is below the microphone button. So on where you see your chat box, it should be on the left-hand side. It looks like a hand. I'm not sure if it has 4 or 5 fingers on the hand, but it looks like a hand raise. Is it 4, Maria? Okay, good. All right, so it looks like most of you are good to go. If you're still having some trouble, just to give you a description, thank you, Valerie. It is next to the names of everybody that you see that's signed into our session. So you can also find it there if you're having trouble locating the microphone icon. All right, so at this point, what I'm going to do is just lower everybody's hands. We will go ahead and get started. All right, so you should be able to see that your hand was lowered. And basically what I want to review today, we talked a lot in class about the play personalities as well as the qualities of play. Both of these are umbrella concepts that you are going to be required to remember and retain moving forward in our course this month, but more specifically, apply in your week 1 assignment, okay? So the majority of your week 1 assignment is going to be a lot of fun thinking about how you used to play and how you play now and what that play might look like in the future for your career. But then we also want you to really seriously consider how these concepts of play apply to those activities. All right, so what qualities of play do you feel like were present in your past play, or do you see present in your current methods of play? And also, what play personality is kind of shining through? Is it your dominant play personality that you see now? Has that dominant personality shifted since you were a child, thinking back on what that looked like? Okay, and so we're going to talk through just a recap of those qualities and how we define play so that we know what play really is when we're talking about it. And then we're going to walk through the expectations for that week 1 assignment. All right, so before I get started, are there any questions moving forward before we start to talk through the qualities of play? Okay, I'm back, guys. Don't worry. Now you should be able to see my video again and my voice. Gabriel, I'll remember that you said, "She left, let's riot." I'm going to take a note for that for next time. I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. So on the screen, you've been seeing the beginnings of our conversation in regards to the qualities of play shine through. All right. One of the ways that we are able to define play is through the qualities, and there are several different ones when we discuss this. So the first one is the idea that play is voluntary. So that when we're playing, we're doing so on a voluntary basis, right? We try to encourage play in our class. And as you're required to do certain activities and assignments, we kind of run up against the challenge of that. So as you go through the course, one of the ways that you see this voluntary action is by your ability to choose options in regards to that assignment. And in your own play, let's say outside of class, hopefully that choice gives you the chance to also choose things that you consider voluntary that allow you to play and figure out what you enjoy and what makes you laugh and de-stress and really find those happy moments. Okay. When we're discussing the element that is apparently purposeless in terms of play, what this means is that it's done for its own sake, right? So our safety isn't a necessity when this is happening, right? So when you think about that game, everybody knows the movie Jumanji, right? Go ahead and just comment in the chat box if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, good, good. So that movie in and of itself, right? It's I don't think it was ever based on real life. Let's hope not, right? So if it is just a movie and we're watching it, let's just assume that the game Jumanji actually exists in real life. And if we were to play it the way that we saw it in the movie, that was going to happen, right? So that what we see there in that game is that it does start off as play, right? It's something that's fun. It's maybe bringing out a competitive play personality in some people, and it's enjoyable. Okay, it's apparently purposeless, meaning it's done for its own sake. So it's set apart from things that are necessarily goal directed. So we're playing for the sake of play itself, right? However, when Jumanji comes to life and that game starts to involve things that maybe challenge or threaten our safety or things that are actually going on that we want to accomplish, right? It is not always purposeless at that point. So when we're thinking about apparently purposeless, I want you to think about it in terms of the activity itself. You know, what purpose is this serving to you? Is it something to protect your safety? Is it something to get you ahead in work? Or is it something that you're doing to de-stress and that you really genuinely enjoy and sets it apart from other activities that are more goal directed? Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Perfect. Okay. So the next element and way that we define play is with inherent attraction. So what this means, as Miss Ann has explained to you guys in class, is that you feel naturally drawn to this activity. All right. In class, we use the example of music. Okay. Think about it like this. Like you may not be able to specifically describe or explain why you are drawn to this activity, but the connection that you feel is there, right? It's inborn it's within you. And so understanding how an activity that you enjoy is something that is inherently attractive to you is important because it means that it's something that you are interested in naturally, that you are wanting to be a part of, that you want to partake in. With freedom from time, we tend to think of times when we were engaged in an activity where we lose sense of time while we're engaged or completing that activity, whatever it is. You may have looked up from a painting or a sketch, a computer monitor where you're putting a game together or some code, right? Maybe sports practice or a recording session, and you realize that time had passed way more than you thought. All right. This is an example of play, and specifically this element of freedom from time, meaning that you completely lose track of what's going on. You might even be experiencing this with some video games where you're playing, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh man, I haven't eaten since breakfast and it's like 10 o'clock at night, right? So we think about this element of play and what that feels like, and whether you've experienced it with an activity in the past or the present, I would venture to say that all of us know or have seen this in other people. All right. In regards to diminished consciousness of self, this is very, very similar to how we lose freedom from time, all right, losing that track of time. But some activities that we partake in are so enthralling that we also lose track of ourselves for a brief period. Okay, so as you can see, these elements and these components that define play not only are we saying, yes, this is an activity that I enjoy, all right, but it's an activity that I enjoy that meets all of these different qualities. And that's how I know that it's not just fun, but that it's play and it's really beneficial to me to keep going or to keep doing it. Improvisational potential is really just telling us that play is a process that allows for improvising and for changes to happen. Okay, so when we are in play, we should be able to, for lack of describing this with a description, right? We're able to improvise. We're able to kind of adjust if needed and go with the flow. Okay. Now, continuation of desire means that not only do we have that inherent attraction to it, right? We naturally are drawn to whatever this is, but we're also compelled to continue with that activity. Maybe, we may walk away from this activity for a brief period of time. But when we walk away from that activity, we want to return to it. We want to keep going. All right. For some of you, maybe that's in exercise. For others of you, maybe that's in song or your video games or, board games or maybe something that you do with your friends that you really enjoy. And so using these qualities of play that we've discussed can begin to help us again, really understand between what actually is true play by definition and other activities that we do that might be enjoyable but do not constitute, actual play. So when you're thinking through your assignment for this week, I want you to think about what these were. All right, it's very easy that we think when we're a kid about all the fun that we've had and the things that we liked to do, or maybe even when we're thinking back, um, we want to think about things that made us smile. Okay, that's a start. That's really, really important. Okay, but what I want you to also think through are, what things kind of resulted in or made you feel certain ways from play. So we talked a lot in class about Stuart Brown's definition, and while we can see other perspectives from Stuart Brown's on what the definition of play means, there are a lot of similarities in regards to what play is and how it makes us feel or what the results of play are. So really, when we're talking about play, it's not that you all don't know what play is. It's not that you've never heard that word, right? It's that it's a tool in a number of different ways that has much more to do with our mental state and our happiness and our motivations rather than just a specific activity. So I want you to think about that in regards to your past, in regards to your present, and also in regards to what you want to do in the future. If it is true play, then what we will see from this, sorry about that text box, guys, but what we'll see from this is, the 4 elements that we discussed in class. Okay, so it should reduce your stress. And I always kind of give the funny example of, when I was in college, one of my friends around that time, video games had just really started to peak in their popularity in terms of like what you do on your spare time. Okay. And so, everybody I knew had like an Xbox or a PlayStation. Like that was the big thing. And so one day, one of my friends invited me over and was like, "Yeah, a bunch of us are gonna play Halo, this, and that. You should play. It's so much fun, right?" Well, it started off fun for me. But then what I realized is that my competitive nature kind of started to take over, and it turned into something that was more stressful for me and more detrimental after a period of time than something that was beneficial. And so after a while, I had to really evaluate, how that activity was making me feel. What was it doing good for me? And if it's not, how can I alter that and kind of move forward from it or replace it with something that does? So I would encourage you all to really think through the deeper meaning behind these activities and how they make you feel. Does anybody have any questions about that or need a little more clarification on anything that we've talked about so far? Okay, makes sense? Perfect. Okay, so I am going to divert our session just a little bit, and what we're going to do is talk through the week 1 assignment. Now, remembering that it incorporates your qualities of play as well as your play personality, all right? Whether that was past, present, or future, you really do have to identify both in order to be eligible for full credit in this assignment. So let's go ahead and open that up and take a look. I am going to show you guys the screen so that you can see this. Just give me 1 second, okay? There we go. And we'll zoom a little bit. All right, so you should have a pretty good sight of it at this point. Okay. And so when we're talking through our assignment, right, the whole point is for us to visualize what this looks like and to really think through what this means for you from when you were growing up to now to what you want to achieve in your goals. So the idea behind this assignment, Anne touched upon it a little bit in class today, so let's talk through it further, is essentially that you're going to be creating what would be similar to a vision board. All right. And this vision board should kind of tell us a story, tell yourself a story about your play history. So you may want to use, things like Pinterest or Pictochart is another good one. Pictochart is a program that lets you put together like a visual infographic type of looking image altogether. And so it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. You could also use PowerPoint or Keynote or Prezi. Totally up to you. But essentially, you're going to have 8 images total. Okay, so you're going to have 2 images that represent versions of past play. You're going to have 2 images that represent versions of present play and 2 images representing what you feel like future play might be like. All right, do your best to make these 8 different activities. And the other thing that I want to bring to your attention is to remember that in every single image, so 8 times, you will want to identify and explain not only the play personality that is depicted, but also the qualities of play that are represented in each image. And so what we don't want, I'm sorry, good catch, Skylar, definitely 6, not 8. I don't know why I would have gotten that. Ignore the 8. It is 6, 2 per category. All right, past, present, future. Sorry about that. Math is clearly not Miss Spodo's thing. So, all right. And so when we're looking at these 6 images, I want you to really think about what is represented. So it's not going to be worth that full representation of mastery of the concepts if you just give us bullet points, right? We're looking for several paragraphs per image explaining what these qualities were, why you feel like that quality was present, what it means to that activity. Okay, also along with your play personality, why that play personality? Why do you feel like that was depicted in this image? And what do you think that means to you? What did you learn or grow? Or what's the takeaway? All right, so this is meant to be very visual in nature, but with descriptions attached. So I would choose the program that you feel best is enabling you to do that. All right. Now, in our rubric, you'll see that we have different levels of how you earn your grade. Okay. If it were me, I would always cross-reference this rubric. Make sure that when you're done or you think you're done and you're ready to submit, go through this again one more time. Make sure that you're hitting all those points and that there's no room for doubt or anything that you could have explained in a little bit more detail. Okay, so level of completion is pretty self-explanatory, but it's worth 15 points. So you're always going to want to stay on this left side of the rubric under the category that says exemplary. Okay, that's your A area right there. So under exemplary, you'll get the full 15 points if you include everything in your assignment. All right, so the images, all of the explanations, inclusion of course concepts, and showcasing your understanding of those, not just mentioning the keywords, but describing them and providing examples as well. The concept application is what I just mentioned, so demonstrating that you understand it, all right? Showing us the connection, that personal connection to the material. So I wouldn't just say, here's a picture of me jump roping, diminished consciousness of self, and my explorer personality were present. Okay, you're going to want to, yes, identify, but then also describe. All right, so Shane asked, so if it's all of both qualities and personalities in every image, do we need to re-explain the qualities and personalities again, or just covering them all once over across all 8 images? Good question, Shane. So in your 6 images, you should have different things that you see were fit, right? So your personalities could have changed over time. From when you were a kid, you might have had different dominant personalities than now. It might be the same, but that activity might have brought out something more dominant than some of the others. So we really want you to explain that. So I would caution you to incorporate all of the qualities and all of the personalities in the first image, because you're going to want to kind of show that progression of history over time. As you're growing as a person, so are these qualities, and so is that personality that you're developing. Did that help answer your question? Okay, perfect. So then comes this area of innovation, okay? And this is sometimes more than not an area where students tend to find themselves losing points, and here's why. And so I want to help you guys really understand that so that you don't put yourself in that situation as well. So the innovation category is where we're looking for a polished assignment, all right, that is in professional quality, making use of innovative ideas. So what does this mean for our class? All right, I'm not expecting for you all to have mastered a program, maybe a program that you've never used. Some of you may have never used Prezi or Keynote. Maybe you're more familiar with PowerPoint. I want to encourage you to go outside of your comfort zone, think outside of the box, and try a new program. All right, I'm not judging you on doing that. We're not grading you on if you've ever used this program before, right? So when myself and Ann and John sit down to grade, we're going to look and say, is it polished? Did it look like the effort and organization was really put in to put your best professional foot forward with this? Or, did you take a Word document and just throw a bunch of text into it? The images are missing. Maybe the images are there, but we're not sure what descriptions they belong to. All right, so that level of organization and really showcasing your creativity is what it boils down to, is important. And we want to be able to see that and understand kind of where you started. Maybe explain to us, I've never used PowerPoint before. Maybe that's a current version of Play. Like maybe you really enjoy learning new programs. So that would be an opportunity for you to explain to us why. And then grammar mechanics, just demonstrating your college level writing abilities. So complete sentences, complete sentence structure, capitalizing when necessary, any sort of spelling that needs to be really careful of those tricky ones like your, and your. All right, make sure that it would be my suggestion to maybe type this out into a Word document first, spell check, read through it once, and then put it into whatever form or method you've chosen to submit your assignment into. That might be a really nice way to check and make sure and have some help on that end from technology. Okay. Yes. And John, 2, 2, and 2 are also very good examples. All right. So Valerie asked, if our current play revolves around our kids, can we use pictures of or with them? Yes, absolutely, Valerie, for sure. Your play and your version of current play is your version, right? So that is totally your choice. Any images that you use that belong to you, obviously those are yours. You are the source, but any images that you all use, let's say from our library, media resource, and through our Connect page that we have access to that we're allowed to use, just make sure that you credit that source. Give us, the reference as to where you got it from, so that we don't think that you're trying to take it and run with it on your own. All right. So you'll want to cite it. Yes, you want to cite these images. You can maybe have, if it's a Prezi, one block at the end, or maybe you include it in a Word document with the link to your Prezi, or maybe if it's a PowerPoint or a Keynote, you could just put a slide with your references at the end. That would be fine. Okay. So Isaiah asked, what advice do you have to keep the assignment professional, as well as using all the personalities without being wordy, but keeping the project clean? Yeah, that's a great question, Isaiah. Um, I think that there are many, many ways that you can showcase to us what these activities are. There's so many things that I'm sure you all do that are considered play, um, that there's no reason to kind of falter from that professional communication. Okay. So I would just keep it, G or PG, no need to bring in anything that is considered inappropriate. Think about the person that you consider of highest respect in your life, that if they found something out that was inappropriate, whatever that means, that you would be mortified, right? You putting yourself as a professional first, you want to make sure that that's your best foot forward. So in whatever way, is best for you to think about that. For me, I think about it in terms of like my mom. If I were to show her, hey, mom, look at what I just did, and I'm turning this into my boss, is she going to look at that and go, wow, like you show this to your boss? Or wow, that seems a little bit, inappropriate to share with your boss. Obviously, we want you to get personal, and we want you to be descriptive, but, just keeping it without any curse words, without any profanity is really the level that we're looking for. I don't know if that helps, Isaiah. Let me know if it does in the chat box. Just give me a yes or a no. Oh, okay. So I took that. Isaiah said he didn't mean inappropriate. He meant with one page without too much content. I gotcha. So it would be my suggestion that you say as much as you need. All right. I would rather you give us too much description and showcase how much you understand it than not enough, and leave some room for questions as to if you really understood a certain piece of it, or if that application was accurate or applicable. So the more the better. Obviously, I would maybe type it out a couple times. Structure it. So put your thoughts out, maybe write them down or type them out, and then start to fill it out from there and see where that takes you. And then if you find yourself being repetitive, then simplify it a little bit. But if it's not repetitive and it's really answering the question and showcases a mastery of that content, then I say keep it, and we're happy to read that. Okay. Awesome. Good, good. What other questions do we have about that week 1 assignment? And you can either raise your hand or type in the chat box. Either way is good with me, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so we got a couple in there at one time. Let me just read through these. Okay. Jadani said, what if one play personality applied to more than one of your past plays? That's very possible. Some of you are going to even notice that you have a dominant play personality and maybe a secondary play personality. So talk us through what that looks like. If there was any sort of progression along the years, or maybe, you used to feel like you were a collector personality, and maybe now you're more of an explorer, okay? Or maybe more of a director. And really just think through what that felt like, what that looked like. Review the play personality descriptions. Remember that they're not just, their titles. Okay, so I say that in terms of like our explorer, for example. It's not just that we like to travel and we like to explore new things, but you like to explore feelings or research on a certain topic as well. Can be an explorer personality. Did that make sense? Did that help? Perfect. Okay, good. All right. So, in saying that, I am going to ask if we have any other questions in regards to anything we've talked about so far. Good to go? Okay. Well, don't go just yet, but I'm glad that you're good to go. That was in the chat box for those of you that are going to be listening to our recording. I'm glad it all makes sense. So basically, we have one more day this week in week 1. And at that point, you guys will have your groups. We're going to do some group introductions and work on, our team research a little bit before the end of the week, and that integrated learning aspect that we have coming up. And so for next class, I really just want you guys to continue to work through all of the different activities that you have for this week. If you haven't finished the readings yet, I really encourage you to do so before our next class. All right, make sure that you get started on our assignment. That way it's not left till last minute and you're in a rush or stressed or anything like that. And don't forget that you also have your your brain teaser quiz, and your weekly discussion board. All right. For those of you that were with us live here today, in just a few minutes when we leave, you'll be able to go into the portal and click that you've completed this activity for your Go-To Training Integrated Learning hours. Make sure, don't forget to go in there and do that. That is how we record your attendance for this session. We compare it to who was here, but in order to receive the full credit, you have to do that very last step, which is to go and have that activity completed on the portal. Okay. For those of you that are in the recording, once you've completed the recording, then you can go ahead and do the same. So make sure that you click that you've completed this. That's that very last step to our activity and those integrated hours that you're earning along the way, in addition to lecture hours in class. All right. So I now have another question for you, and that is for our next Go-To training. We will also cover some content and review some other content from class similar to today. But what is one thing that you would like to do now that you're a little bit more familiar with the Go-To training system? Is that more microphone? Is it a chat box? We do have the ability to take polls and look at different perspectives or understandings. We can create polls. We can even watch videos. So I want to hear a little bit about what you might feel comfortable doing next, and we'll incorporate that for week 2. So we do like videos. Keep in mind that's not going to be the whole time, but we'll incorporate a few extra fun ones for you guys. Polls. Very good. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, we'll think about some ways we can incorporate some polls or some videos. And as we go through each week, we'll get even more comfortable with Go-To training, because this is a system that you guys will utilize throughout your time here at Full Sail, whether on campus or online. All right. So at this point, I am going to give the green light. If you don't have any other questions, we are done for this evening. I will stay in here for a few more minutes in case you have a couple extra questions that you just thought about. And know that we're going to be in the discussions with you, commenting, engaging with you guys as you post up there. And we're also available on the portal as well, or we'll see you next class. So don't be afraid to reach out and engage with us. Okay. All right, everybody. Otherwise, we will see you next class. I hope you have a very productive next couple of days, and reach out with any questions. All right. Have a great night.